All right, guys, let's dive straight into the latest buzz that's shaking up both social media and mainstream media. So, John Fetterman, a well-known figure in the political landscape, is taking legal action against Sunny Hostin and The View producers. Yep, you heard it right. This isn't just any lawsuit. It's one that centers around what was said live on set, and trust me, it's got everyone talking. Now, let's rewind a bit. You might be wondering, okay, what exactly sparked this lawsuit? It all unfolded during a heated segment on The View, where Sunny Hostin made some pretty bold statements that caught not just John Fetterman's attention, but also the attention of legal experts across the country. The crux of her remarks, well, kind of insinuated questionable actions and motives behind Fetterman's political maneuvers, especially regarding his unusual cordiality towards certain political figures, like, well, you know who. All right, so moving on. Let's break this down further. John Fetterman, the Democratic senator, who, by the way, has a reputation for being candid and sometimes unconventional, was tagged in a string of speculations involving interactions with Donald Trump. This assertion, made by Hostin, was wrapped in, let's say, sharp criticism and quickly became a centerpiece of controversy. And, well, not just controversy on air.
They'll say that about the J6 people too, though, right? That's what they're going to say on the other side. That is weaponized also.
I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about the New York trial, and now the Democrats on our side there were some that were gleeful, calling it like now he's a convicted felon and those things, and now for our party we were talking about criminal justice, and we're now talking about second chances, and now all of a sudden now you're like, well, he's a convicted felon and all these things. And now clearly, again, both of those trials, the Hunter Biden one and the trial in New York for Trump, that was politically motivated. And those kinds of charges would have never been brought unless one side could realize that they could weaponize that.
Senator.
We're talking a political storm that brews where legal lines and political integrity kind of cross each other, you know?
I think, what I'm against mandates. I think that, there may be situations where where that product might do some good for somebody, but I just don't believe it should be mandated. I wouldn't think, for example, that Viagra should be mandated to every human being on the planet, right? But there may be somebody who says, I want to take that medication, let them do it.
Hostin's comments, according to Fetterman and his team, not only misrepresent his actions, but also potentially damage his reputation. From Fetterman's point of view, these comments were more than just opinionated banter.
In a new Netflix documentary series about New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, he said he's heartbroken about friends and family cutting him off for his controversial political views and conspiracy theories. And a lot of Americans can relate to this, especially after this last election. So, do you think it happens everywhere?
What I recall about him is when he was asked about the COVID-19 pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, when people had lost loved ones, when people's family members were missing from their Thanksgiving table, like my table, he said, I'm immunized. And as it turns out, he was not. He had done his own research. He has his Google MD like I do. And I think he said he was allergic to something in the vaccine, but he had COVID and he was in a huddle with his teammates. Yeah. And I think people felt like, wow, you don't care. You're not your brother's keeper.
This could really turn me against
a morality.
Are you telling me that
they were misleading and potentially libelous? To put it plainly, he's not taking it lightly. Now, if you're following the political beat, you'd know that John Fetterman is sometimes seen as a bit of a maverick. He's not the typical politician. He sort of prides himself on being straightforward and not afraid to cross party lines to get things done. It's this very characteristic that has won him both admiration and criticism within political circles. So when Hostin, on such a widely viewed platform, implied that his interactions with Trump were suspicious or out of the ordinary, it kind of set off alarm bells. Okay, let's pause for a second and talk about why this matters. Any high-stakes comment on a show like The View, which boasts millions of viewers, carries weight. For Fetterman, these allegations could potentially cloud the public's perception of him, right when the political climate is tense and perception, well, let's say, is everything.
it is his son, after all, and people do have sympathy for that. But a lot of people are angry with him about it. What do you say?
Oh, well, I think it's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated, but I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump that was political as well too. Now it's that, and in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate, and I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases, and we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents. And it's very clear both trials were politically motivated and weaponized that on the other side.
Such comments can be more than just career damaging. They shift the conversation from policy to personal attack, something Fetterman seems determined to address head-on. All right, continuing the narrative, why did Hostin say what she did? Was it just a heat-of-the-moment statement, or was there more strategy behind it? Well, The View is known for its lively debates and often unfiltered opinions. Hostin, like her fellow hosts, doesn't shy away from expressing her views, even if they spark backlash. Whether it was intentional or a slip, Hostin probably didn't foresee that it would lead to a lawsuit. So where does this leave the relationship between political figures and media personalities? It's a complicated dance, right? Public figures like Fetterman are no strangers to media scrutiny. It's almost part of the job description. However, there's a fine line between scrutiny and potentially damaging non-factual statements when these are broadcasted to millions. With that in mind, this legal move by Fetterman raises critical questions about free speech versus accountability. Are talk show hosts like Hostin crossing the line when they veer into the territory of unchecked assertions? To what extent should they be held responsible for speaking off the cuff?
It tended to be people who got their flu shots, people who are in nursing home who all get flu shots, people who are first responders who get flu shots.
So with all due respect, I don't understand the implications of your position. If you're right, why wouldn't it follow that the flu shot should be illegal? You said it's criminal to mandate the flu shot because it kills people in my age category. So if you had to cast the deciding vote, if you had decided to run for Congress instead of doing the great work you've done over so many years, and you were the deciding vote in the United States Senate, and there was a bill to outlaw the flu shot, why wouldn't you vote for it if you think
I'm kind of a free market. I think, what I'm against mandates.
And how does this balance with their right to express their opinions freely? These are questions that this unfolding saga is highlighting, drawing both legal analysts and media watchers into the conversation.
Senator, many of
Since Trump's win, there's been a lot of soul searching on the Democratic side, people needing answers on what went wrong. Do you think that is helpful? And do you think there should also be some soul searching on the Republican side who need to analyze why they would nominate a convicted felon who ran on lies, threats of retribution, and concepts of a plan?
Well, I haven't spent any of my time after the election freaking out or just thinking about. Here's where we are, and I would like to remind everybody that that's the way democracy works.
And you might wonder, okay, fine, he's taking them to court, but what does Fetterman hope to achieve? Besides potentially clearing his name, this lawsuit could serve as a sort of cautionary tale. A reminder to media outlets and hosts alike to tread carefully when presenting personal opinions as quasi-facts on high-profile platforms. All right, let's shift gears a little. In this media-dominated era, the implications of this case could stretch beyond just The View and John Fetterman. We're in a time where the spread of misinformation is a significant concern, right? Platforms broadcasting live discussions must navigate the fine lines around free speech and responsibility. Could we see stricter guidelines for talk shows moving forward? Anyway, here's where we ask you guys, what do you think about all this? Do you believe that shows like The View should have more stringent oversight when their discussions have the potential to significantly impact someone's reputation? Should media personalities face legal consequences for their on-air statements? In the end, while lawsuits aren't uncommon today, especially among public figures, this particular one has the potential to set some precedents. It could redefine how media outlets handle political discourse and the depth of accountability they hold. All right, so to sum it up, guys, John Fetterman's legal pursuit against Sunny Hostin and the producers of The View isn't just some side tidbit in today's news cycle. It's shaping up to be a significant event that highlights not only the tension between media and politics, but also the broader implications around free speech and personal accountability. Whether you're Team Fetterman, believe in the provocative nature of live TV discussions, or are somewhere in between. This story is a stark reminder of the complexities in modern-day media interaction, especially when political stakes are high. So, that's the scoop for now. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to know where you stand on this. Do you see this as a stand for political integrity or an overreach in terms of media commentary? Until next time, take care and keep those critically thinking caps on.